Picture this. The year is 1941. The Germans are using an encryption machine called Enigma that is able to generate billions of different combinations every second, making it practically impossible to crack. But then out of nowhere, the British mathematician and computer scientist Alan Turing and his team of codebreakers actually to crack the Enigma code. What makes this story even more incredible is that they accomplished this just a few months after the start of the war, which means they're doing something that the Germans thought was literally impossible. So how did Turing and his team pull off this extraordinary feat? And why should you care about it? Well, in addition to shortening the war and helping to save millions of lives, Turing's work laid the groundwork for modern computers. So whether you're interested in history, math, science, or just want to know how the world works, stick around because we'll be exploring the fascinating story of how the printing press Shockwave that feels impossible happened. So let's get started. First, let's set the scene. World War II is raging in Europe and the Germans are using an encryption machine called Enigma to keep their military communications safe from the Allies. The machine works by taking letters of the alphabet and replacing them with other letters, based on a constantly changing code. This code is generated by a series of rotating wheels or rows, which means that the same letter always translates to a different letter and vice versa. The Germans believe that this makes their communications unbreakable, but they couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the British were already starting to suspect that there was a weakness in the Enigma code and that, if they could exploit it, they could potentially break it. But nobody knew exactly what the weakness was, at least not until Alan Turing came along. You see, Turing was a brilliant mathematician and computer scientist who had been working on the problem for a few months. In addition to being gay in a time when that was illegal, he was considered pretty weird by some of his peers due to his eccentric behavior. However, his intellect and insight was undeniable, which is why he was brought in to lead the effort to crack the German Enigma code. Now, in order to understand what Turing did next, we need to take a closer look at the Enigma machine itself. As we mentioned earlier, the machine worked by taking letters of the alphabet and replacing them with other letters, based on a constantly changing code. The thing is, the number of possible code combinations was astronomical, which made it seem virtually impossible to crack. In fact, the Germans believed that it would take millions of years to figure out the code, which was music to their ears since they relied heavily on Enigma to keep their military communications safe. However, Turing had a different idea. He believed that the key to cracking the code lay in exploiting the machine's weaknesses, and he was right. With funding from the British government, Turing and his team of mathematicians and engineers set to work building a machine that could help them crack the Enigma code. What they came up with was something revolutionary. A programmable machine that could test thousands of code combinations in a matter of seconds. They called it the bomb machine. Now the bomb machine was a massive leap forward for code breaking. It had several rotors just like the Enigma machine, but instead of using them to encrypt messages, Turing and his team used them to decrypt them. The thing is, the bomb machine wasn't just any ordinary machine. It was one of the earliest computers ever built. It used punch paper tape to store programs and data and was controlled by a keyboard. It also had a display to show the results of its calculations and could print out the decrypted messages. In fact, the bomb machine was so advanced that it is considered to be one of the first electronic programmable computers, even though it wasn't actually finished until 1943. You see, the original version of the bomb machine was mechanical, meaning that it used gears and shafts to perform calculations rather than electronics. However, by 1943, the team had managed to convert it into an electronic device, which made it even more powerful and efficient. In the end, Turing and his team built over 100 of these machines, which helped them to decrypt millions of German messages during World War II. But the impact of the bomb machine went far beyond the war. You see, the technology used in the machine laid the foundation for modern computers and helped to usher in the digital age. It may sound hard to believe, But the very devices we use every day to connect with others around the world can trace their roots back to the bomb machine. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let us go back to World War II and explore how the bomb machine helped to end the war sooner and save countless lives. As soon as the first bomb machine was operational, Turing and his team of codebreakers began feeding it German messages they had intercepted. At first, the messages were gibberish, but slowly the team began to see patterns emerge. They used these patterns to develop a strategy for breaking the Enigma code, and the results were astounding. Within weeks, the team was able to decrypt messages that the Germans thought were secure. This gave the Allies an unprecedented advantage in the war and allowed them to anticipate German moves, launch successful counteroffensives, and ultimately win the war. In fact, historians estimate that Turing's work shortened the war by 2 years, which saved millions of lives. And that is just one reason why the story of Alan Turing and the breaking of the Enigma code is so important. But wait, there's more. You see, the methods and techniques Turing and his team developed didn't just apply to the Enigma code. They laid the foundation for cryptography and computer science as a whole. For example, Turing's concept of a universal machine, which is a theoretical machine that could execute any algorithm on any data set, is still a cornerstone of computer science today. Additionally, the bomb machine has used a punch paper tape to store data, and instructions paved the way for modern computers, which also use binary code to store data and instructions. It's mind-boggling to think that all of this happened over 80 years ago, but it is a testament to the brilliance of Turing and his team that their work continues to shape the world we live in today. Now we've come full circle. We started this video by talking about the Enigma machine and how the Germans believed that their encryption methods were impossible to crack. Yet against all odds, Alan Turing and his team did exactly that. They cracked the code and changed the course of history. And what's more, they accomplished this with a machine that by today's standards seems primitive, but in its time was revolutionary. The impact of their work went far beyond the war. It helped to usher in the digital age and pave the way for modern computers. Can you imagine a world without computers or the internet? Without Turing, that might have been our reality. We hope you enjoyed learning about the incredible story of Alan Turing and the breaking of the Enigma code. If you did, please don't forget to hit subscribe for more untold stories that shape our world. Thanks for watching.